And good afternoon, everyone. It is 12 p.m. on the dot. People are flying in the room. We love that. We're excited. As usual, we're always going to get started a couple minutes after the hour. We want to wait for everyone to get in there. But as you can see up in our little chat window, we've got a little link for you. If you want to bring a few more people to the party, you can share this link. Remember, this is a free live webinar. Help out your running friends, earn some karma points. Post that on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, all the social media, and we'll be going live in a couple minutes. Guys, the other game that we love to play is the Where You're From game. We're out in sunny California right now. I got to drive here with the sunroof open in my car. I know that people in Boston are being buried, but we'd always love to hear where you are, what kind of weather you're dealing with, where you're suffering.
All right, guys, this is Craig here. We got a bunch of people signing in. Thanks so much for coming in. Let's see if we can see where. There we go. Oh, wow, we got lots of people. We got Sarah from Denver. Thanks for signing in. I love Denver. Bellingham, Washington. All right. I used to live in Seattle and would go up to Bellingham for running on the trail. It's a great place to go running. We got someone from Humes SD from Oregon. Leslie from Eureka, California. Crystal from San Antonio. San Antonio is close to my heart, Crystal. I went to school at Rice University in Houston, and we would run. I took vacations out to visit my roommate in San Antonio and ran out there a bunch of times. Let's see, we got people are signing in from all over the place. Tracy from Eugene. We have Blue Gator from Jersey City, New Jersey. Cold weather and snowy, I bet. Let me know if you're actually out there running in the snow. I have many, many memories of running over winter break in Toronto in the snow and ice. Not necessarily pleasant memories, but lots of miles logged. Kina from Littleton, Colorado. Jay Wilkie from Maryland. NorCal, right, representing from NorCal. Evanston, Illinois. I spent so much time in Evanston, Gabriel. My sisters have both lived there for many years, and I spent many, many miles along the lake there. It is really cold this time of year. Amy from Raleigh, North Carolina. I was just in Raleigh for Christmas. Daytona Beach. That sounds good right now.
Yeah, that does sound good right now.
Yeah, Wayne from Daytona. Wayne from Redondo, actually, and Heather from Daytona. Thanks so much for signing in, guys. We really appreciate your time. Let's see. We have more people from San Antonio. Sacramento, close to home. All right. Thanks for signing in, guys. Casper, Wyoming. You know, actually, I did a road trip once across the U.S. I think Wyoming might be the most beautiful state. It is amazing.
I need to
the
go.
press that it should.
I haven't been. Yeah. I'm ready. It's on the list.
Yeah, a couple people from Casper. All right. 60 degrees in Fruita, Colorado. Nice.
Nice. I saw Baton Rouge in there. That's pretty cool. Oh, man, we got 2 people from Casper, Wyoming. That's crazy. You guys don't know each other, do you? Hi there from Washington. What's up, Ben? How are you? Oh, you guys are awesome. We're excited. Nogales, Arizona. This is fantastic, guys. We're going to get started here in 1 more minute. Tell us where you're from, what the weather is like in your neck of the woods. Are you running on that dang treadmill inside? Are you hoofing it outside in that cold weather? Are you spoiled Californians like us and just dealing with all this nice, beautiful sunshine?
How do you feel about treadmills? I say just say no to treadmills.
Just say no to treadmills.
I also live in California, so.
Yeah, easy to say out here to say no to those damn treadmills. You live in some nasty cold weather, it becomes a whole other thing altogether. Fantastic, guys. This is great. We're very excited. We've got a huge group today. This is one of our biggest groups. We're going to be giving you guys some moments, asking you guys some direct questions, putting some polls out there, so pay attention to that stuff, and we'll, after like 5 minutes of that poll being out there, we'll take a look at the answers and talk about it a little bit. We are going to do some questions, so hang in there and work with us for the next 35, 40 minutes or so, and then we're going to stay on as long as you guys are around to answer your questions live video demonstration. We're really excited to be with you guys today and help you out, and we're excited you guys are making the time. So guys, here we go. It is 12:05. We are going to get this thing kicked off. We're very excited, as I said. Today we're talking 3 keys to become a strong runner, and it is such an important subject. We're going to talk a lot about all the different issues and problems that runners can relate to and they've dealt with, and we're going to kind of share some of our very practical solutions or things that you can start to add into your day-to-day to have really big effects. So that's really the big take-home for today. So as we said before, there's that link in that chat room. Grab a friend, send that out into the interwebs on Facebook, social media, Instagram. We always love the big party. The more runners in here, the better. Yes, so our first poll today, guys, from Craig is going to be, what's the top reason you're running right now? We want to know. You'll kind of see the different answers up there in the corner. Just hit on that. We'll come back to that in a couple minutes here. So, guys, our chat today, as I was saying, we're going to talk about the running fallacy, what we call it, which is basically to be runners, we just have to run more and more and more. And so many of us just do running as our complete fitness regimen, but we run into trouble later in life, and we're going to talk about why we need to add some more things in to be a more rounded, complete individual. We're going to give you those 3 take-homes today. You're going to be pretty psyched about it. And then finally, we've got this pretty awesome 30-day running program that is going to really blow your guys' minds away, and we're excited to give you a little sneak peek there. So you're in the right place, guys, if you are injured and you cannot run at all. We've been frustrated there. We understand how that is. You're in the right place if you want to increase those PRs, right? You want to get a little faster. You want to qualify for Boston. You just want to beat your friend home the next day, but you don't really know how to do it. The other thing, too, is that, sometimes we run so much we hurt all the time. Our knees hurt, our back hurts, and, you can't ski anymore. You have a hard time, playing other games with your friends. So you want to feel like an athlete, and, running just, it sucks sometimes. It hurts. We get it. We've been there, too. You want to get stronger. You're here because you want to get a little bit stronger, but you don't really know where to start. You're not sure. There's so much strength stuff out there. We don't know where to go or even how it works. And we just want you to go through this little mental exercise with this. Picture yourself. This is actually me running down in Ecuador, South America last year, teaching some running seminars. And by the way, all the photos in here are photos that we've taken ourselves of our athletes, of our own adventures. And we're not showing you professional model photographs. These are all things of our own lifestyle that we live. So we're excited to share this lifestyle with you. So picture yourself cruising out there, running pain-free, just being invincible out there, just being able to run long, run short. It always feels good. And you're running faster and further than you ever have, and really accomplishing all those running goals you want to accomplish. And, if this sounds good to you, say yes. Really tell us, because we don't know too many people who've said no to that. And really important, guys, we want to know what your goals are. Tell us what you want to accomplish this year, and what you're a little scared about, what you think is holding you back. So that's really, really important here. Now, today we have a special bonus. As I was saying, we're going to talk about this 30-day challenge, this 30-day running program that involves way more than just running, and we're going to get to that a little bit later here. So I'm going to pass that on over to Craig. He's going to share a little bit about who we are and how we've got into some things.
So just showing you the results of that first poll, looks like majority of people here are running for fitness, and they have races coming up. So this is going to be great. Losing weight is, and just for fun, we all, I run at this point mostly because I just enjoy it, but also that we both still do a lot of races. Actually, we're doing a gnarly race at the end of the year together, and we've been athletes for a while. Nate and I both ran. I ran through college. And in high school, ran a lot of marathons, did a lot of endurance events that way, and we have faced a lot of the frustrations that I think that a lot of you have faced, which is, we've been injured, and we've also, had kind of this hodgepodge mix of coaching where, I used to get tips from my coach, and then I would look online, and I'd find training plans for a marathon, and then I'd look at Runner's World, and I'd get some tips for a faster 5K and things like that, but it didn't prevent me from constantly being in this cycle of almost being injured or managing an injury. And it wasn't until I actually started working with Nate that I started concentrating a little bit more on treating myself like an athlete first and a runner as an expression of that. And I came to Nate because I was injured, and here's actually me doing the Ironman triathlon. Nate messing around with some really light weights at a gym, and I had I had this problem where every time that I went and did something other than running, I would get injured. So if it's an ultimate frisbee game, touch football, basketball, anything that I did, I would get injured. And here's some results from an MRI. I had 2 MRIs, went to 4 different physical therapists, and had this adductor injury that would just not go away. And it got to the point where, as I got out of college and started working and then sitting at a desk all day, I would do all these things that were, I would run in the morning, but I would not be active the rest of the day. And it would be like, that running was my one outlet. And it ended up that I was getting more and more and more like singular in my ability to do just one thing, but nothing else. And I got injured, and then I, really couldn't solve that injury for over a year. And moving into working with Nate is actually what solved it for me, and that's how we started working together and wanting to spread like this idea of becoming an athlete that is well-rounded, and then being able to express it in any way that you want. Running being the primary way that Nate and I express it right now, but we also do a lot of other things. And feeling like you're able to move through the world, that your body's moving properly, and that you're performing, like when you're running, are you running with good form? But also if you're doing something as simple as any sort of strength exercises or any other sort of sport, like is your body moving in a healthful manner, and are you like on the cusp of being injured?
Yeah. Absolutely, guys. And for me, what's interesting is I can say to you now with the utmost confidence, the reason why I'm standing in front of this microphone listening to, or talking to all of you guys virtually is because I've dealt with so many running injuries myself in the past, and I've been sidelined from really major races. I've gone through physical therapy just like Craig, and I've actually been spat out the back end. I've done so much PT for certain races. I ran out of I ran out of insurance visits, and I really ran out of all these solutions that the healthcare industry was trying to provide. And it wasn't until we started to actually, do some of the things that we're going to talk about today that I started to turn the ship around. And it wasn't until then I really realized how many other runners were struggling with the same stuff. Really, really important. And, getting into this, guys, we know the challenge, and Craig and I were both trying to fight this. We were trying to always be a little bit better. We're trying to keep up with faster teammates. We were trying to race longer distances. We were just trying to be the best athletes we could be, and we dealt with these little issues and bumps along the way.
And sorry, you can see in the chat room like how many of you guys are aiming for big races. You have big goals. You have targets that you're setting, but you're still like dealing with knee pain or IT band pain or hip pain, and I now have been on both sides where I've realized like it doesn't have to be that painful. Yes, when you train really hard, you are going to go through some discomfort for sure. That's part of training, but it does not have to be this constant a mess of injuries that kind of like plague you and go one after the other. I've been there, and now that I'm on the other side, I'm like, man, I spent so many years jumping off the couch and just feeling so like in pain with all my joints.
Absolutely, but as we can both relate to this, we didn't know what we didn't know at the time, and so we know with running injuries, unfortunately, it's that case for most people. It's not if, but when. Some people throw out some pretty serious running statistics. It's one of the technically most dangerous sports in the United States compared to basically the amount of people who run and the number of injuries people experience throughout the year. It's pretty crazy stuff. So we're getting into this thing, and we've been hinting at this, but running, we're trying to run longer, trying to run faster, we're trying to accomplish these goals, and we're running into these stopping points. So we have this problem, and how do we solve it, right? How do we get ourselves able to arrive at the starting line healthy, get through that race, have fun, go out and race again, and maybe do this for a while and have this part of the lifestyle that we want for ourselves? It's tricky, we understand. A big thing that we're going to talk about today, guys, we talked about 3 tips to run strong. Is like, well, the obvious answer, we've all heard this in one context or another, you need to be stronger. But what does strength mean? I know that a lot of runners flinch right at the gym. They run the other direction. They think of, Arnold Schwarzenegger. They think of bodybuilding. They think of all these like big things of bulking up, or maybe like a booty blast class that just seems a little cheesy, a little funny. I was joking around with that with some athletes of mine this morning. But, there is something about being stronger. So what does running strength mean, right? This is a picture of us running out in the headlands and a beautiful sunset. We're all just, running very short distances, so it's very easy to look very upright and be very strong and connected. But I guarantee you, if you took a picture of us maybe at mile 15 or mile 20, maybe we wouldn't look so upright anymore. So what does it mean to be running strong? Well, maybe it means to have this type photo where you're so tall, erect, relaxed, you're very controlled and connected, and you're able to do that for longer and longer durations. And there's a key relationship between that, your posture and positioning, and your running strength. So here are ideas, guys, that we want you to try out today, and these are things that are missing. Going back to that running fallacy, if I only run and that's the only thing I do, I'm making some big mistakes. I'm leaving some huge gaping holes in my training, and I need to do some basic things that address my basic core strength, my posture and position, my mobility. I'm stuck in a chair all day. I'm a professional sitter because I work, because I live in a house with chairs and comfy couches, and if I'm doing that, my hips are tight. We can guarantee you 100% without even seeing you, we know your hips are tight. That creates a whole host of problems. And further, a lot of us have never really delved into run technique unless we've been fortunate enough to work with a coach. So we're going to talk about one of our favorite running drills as well. And all of these things, guys, they're free, they're easy to use. You can do it in your living room, you can do it at work, and we definitely want you to try and practice with us today. So our first thing, guys, we're going to go through is the push-up. And I do this all the time whenever I work with a new set of athletes, whether they're adults or high school kids. I was working with a bunch of high school kids the other day. I swear to God, they were all left feet and elbows, just kind of this awkward, tangled mess when we're getting them to move. And there's so many important things in this, but we're just going to highlight a few that will most likely make this push-up a lot harder for you, but is also going to show you what you're missing and what you need to work on and how it's going to translate to that stronger running. This running mobility thing is huge. When we talk about mobility, we're not talking about just how long a muscle is, if my hamstrings are tight or something. It talks about more about not only the length of the muscle, but the range of motion in the joint. It's not just my hamstrings are stiff, but all the surrounding musculature around my hips that are stiff. My hip flexors, my groin, my adductors, different parts of my quads, my glutes. And what we want to be able to do is have a strategy that attacks all of those different things at the same time. We're looking for strong, simple, elegant solutions to this thing. And we can see two pictures here, two people squatting. And finally, if you guys who are good at squatting and you want the real truth checker, we're going to go ahead and get onto one leg. So this is our favorite part. We got this little running drill right here too, where we go live and we start to show some demonstrations of this thing. Craig and I are going to walk you through these little things right here. So you see us live. What's up? How are you guys? Craig, are you ready?
Yep.
All right, we're going to do some push-ups here. I'm just going to turn the screen down a little bit. I'm going to take my little portable microphone, and we're going to get this thing rolling here.
This is the part where I get my second workout of the day.
Yeah, this is where Craig gets a little bit of an extra workout here. So we always like that. So, guys, first things first, we're going to get this down even a little further so that we could see Craig in a push-up position. Good. Good. Now, when we get Craig in a push-up position, are you ready? He doesn't like to hold the plank too long. He did it last time. He's going to pace himself. So we're just going to get him in that plank position right now. Good. And we're just going to talk about basic posture. Imagine if he was standing up tall, his feet are together, there's a nice straight line from his ankles, his hips, his knees to his shoulders. And this, for a lot of people, is really hard. I crushed those high school kids with 15-second planks. They had a little work to do. So just holding this is really, really important. Now you can just rest for a quick second. There we go. I'll be a little nicer this time. I won't work them quite so hard. You're welcome. Now, the next thing that we see in this thing is that we just lack intention. We lack that tension. We are so focused on being very relaxed throughout the day, and even when we're running, we're always trying to find that path of least resistance that sometimes we get a little sloppy. Our abs aren't as braced as they could be. Our legs aren't as on as they could be. So I'm just going to have Craig get back in that push-up and show just a very relaxed plank where his legs are a little soft, maybe his hips are down, that low back starts to arch. So if your plank or start of your push-up looks anything like this, you got some work to do. And the first thing you're going to do is bring your feet together. You're going to squeeze your butt as tight as you can. and you're going to think about setting your shoulders. We spend so much time with our shoulders rounded forward that what I want you to do to go the other way is think about screwing your shoulders into the ground, your hands into the ground, sorry, and that's going to set and pull your shoulders together. Very nice. So you can come on down to the ground.
When I first started doing this, I didn't understand what you meant by screwing. So that that motion is really putting your hands on the ground so that your hands are stable, and when you put the weight on them, just rotate your shoulder in a clockwise direction or counterclockwise for your left hand side. So rotate it outward, and you start to feel your shoulders move into like a more set position. That was confused me for a while, and I also at first you used to tell me about like keeping my butt and my abs tight, but I didn't really understand how that related to running. So maybe you should tell me a little bit about how that actually is what we need for runners.
No, fantastic. So that little shoulder cue is really important, and sometimes it is a little weird when we do different cues. It doesn't always make sense, but that's just what it is. It's just a cue to get you to focus on a certain area. What we're really going after is getting your shoulder blades pulled back in together, and this screwing my hand into the ground is a way of just cueing this shoulder that's back. Now, when it gets to running, I don't want to be this rigid when I'm running upright, but what happens is that when my push-ups are a little slow and sloppy, I'm telling my body this is an okay position to be in, and I'm just reinforcing this with further repetition that this is where I'm going to be. And then if I'm hoping to all of a sudden turn the ship around when I run all of a sudden, it's not going to happen because I've reinforced this all day long. So simply put, right here, we're just reinforcing this exaggerated upright position. I tell my body this is where I want to be. This is going to translate to better sitting and standing throughout the day, greater awareness, which is huge. And that all of a sudden is going to help bring that awareness out into my running. Cool. So now we're going to get back in this push-up, and we're spending some time with this, guys, because this is really important. If you've done a push-up before, really pay attention to this because this is very, very important too. Now, the way we want to do a push-up is very important. We want to load our shoulders over our elbows because our shoulders are a little bit of a bigger power generator, and we want to load our shoulders in a way that helps mimic our arm swing and just the natural function of the shoulder itself. So what Craig is actually going to do is he's going to not only just drop down, but he's going to allow his shoulders to tip forward and drop down. His elbows are squeezed in, his butt's still squeezed tight, his chin is up, so he's going to come back up again. Good job. He's got some practice. He's been holding down there real good. He's going to go down again and just do like 2 or 3 more just so you guys can see. And notice his butt stays tight. He's a nice plank all the way through, and his elbow stays right over his wrist. Fantastic. Come down and take a rest. This is really hard. Craig makes it look so easy. As I said, he's got a lot of practice. But just starting to do this, a lot of you guys, I guarantee, are going to start to come and you're going to fall to the ground. That's okay. Treat it as a controlled crash. And what you could actually do is go down to your toes, drop to your knees, and press up from your knees if you need to. Do you want to show that one? So a way to demonstrate this, to get that full range of motion as well, is Craig's going to drop down, and then he's going to drop to his knees, and then press up from his knees. Come back to his toes, control all the way down, drop to his knees, press up from his knees. So that's just a way to modify this thing so it's a little bit more connected. Fantastic. Now here's the most common setup I see with a push-up, and this makes it very hard to move the shoulders first. The hands get stacked a little wide and further ahead of the shoulder. And what happens is when I get in this position, my elbows tend to bend first in a very inefficient way. So we see these elbows slide out really far. Craig, slide back a little bit. They can't see your lovely face. There we go. Good. He kind of lets the elbows bend first. And this is a common push-up. And some of you may say, hey, what's wrong with this push-up? Well, to a certain degree, nothing at all, right? I'm getting some work in. It's not a big deal. But at the same time, I know that I don't spend my day like this. I don't drive my car here. A friend of mine, Carl, talks about this. We don't type out here, right? And we certainly don't run out here either, right? Our arms are here. And so it's important to work on this position a little bit better. So that's that key thing. Now, one of the things we could do, one last thing with that push-up to give ourselves a little tip, if we feel like our elbows are bending, we're not sure, we have a little truth checker for you. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to take our hands and we're going to slowly walk them around. what this is going to prevent you from doing is bending your elbows first, and it's going to force you to go forward with your shoulders. So if you've never tried this before and you think your push-ups are super studette status, try this. You'll definitely know the truth in a second. So Craig's going to go, flip the hands around. He's going to drop down, come back up, press up that way. Fantastic. All right. We're going to give Craig a virtual round of applause. That was great. Lots of work. He's going to get back on. I know you guys have questions. You're seeing a lot of comments fly in. He's going to start answering those things as we go through our next piece. So guys, our next one that's really important is going to be our squat. And as I said, our push-up, basic posture and position, shoulder mechanics, I'm more upright, better breathing, better upright position when I run. My squatting mechanics is going to be a way to help me really develop that mobility in my hips, knees, and ankles that I just don't get from running and from my day-to-day. And anyone out there, I've talked to a lot of you guys of late who've been dealing with some sort of plantar fasciitis issue or a low back issue or knee issue, can be result to just really stiff lower legs. So before we get into the squat test, what we need to do is actually establish what a good squat looks like. Just like our push-up, we didn't want our elbows to bend, so I don't want my knees to go forward. So with this, I'm going to deliberately push my hips back, push my knees out, and drop down. It's about as technical for right now. I'm going to get into the squat. We have videos on our page, therunexperience.com, if you want to see all the videos we have there for just different, things that we've gone through. So the first thing I'm going to do, notice, is I'm just trying to accumulate some time. I'm going to slide back so you can see my feet and come a little bit further forward here. And I just want to see if I can sit all the way down, hip below knee, toes pretty straight, knees out a little bit. And what I'm already starting to do is stretch out after my morning run, and I can feel like, oh yeah, I ran up all these hills, so my ankles are a little stiff. I was doing a lot of writing yesterday, so I feel like my hips and my hamstrings are a little stiff from sitting, so I can just sit in here and open this up. And notice that we're not just stretching one muscle at a time. We're attacking the entire range of motion in the joint, in this case, full flexion and external rotation. And that is going to affect our hamstrings, it's going to affect our glutes, our gluteals, I love pronouncing that word, our hip flexors as well a little bit, and then all the way down into our quads, our calves, our Achilles, all of that just gets really tight and short and leads to all these problems. A physical therapist that we work with, he believes that we should be able to hold this position for 10 minutes, pain-free. That's what a normal human being should do. It's hard. As I'm sitting here, been here for a minute or two. 10 minutes gets pretty tough. And start to do in our routine and practice this. For a runner from we're just scratch foam roller to better effect, but we just wanted to show you a simple one that you could start doing right now to make it a little bit better. Now, for those of you who are trying the squat, we're going to start to see a few things come out. First of all, a lot of you guys are going to come down and you're going to go up on your toes, right? And if you see sideways up here, and unless you're a b-boy, you are a breakdancer, you want to be flat on those heels to improve those ankles. The other thing we're going to start to see, these toes are going to start to turn out and the knees start to cave in. This is not a good position either because I'm putting all of this lateral force on the knee that can lead to something not very pleasant, anything from some kind of meniscus tear, ACL tear, to just some kind of runner's knee-itis that we tend to use as a catch-all for all these issues. So feet a little straighter, knees out. That loads the hips up a little bit better, keeps things nice and stable. Now, if I have that squat and I feel like, hey, I can sit down here, no problem, things are great, I'm a total stud, let's go ahead and try to stick one leg out and see if I can hold this position. Now, first of all, you feel like some parts of you are going to start to cramp a little bit. That's all right. Just putting my hand down here to rest. But you're going to start to see that this challenges that range of motion and that ankle and that hip on that one specific side. So you may notice that there's a difference from one side to the other. I could step in and step out on either side. And you'll notice that I always have a little trouble with this knee. So, for example, when I step out, you can actually see that my knee dives in a little bit, and I have to really fight to push that knee out Those are my own little demons, my own things that I sort of work with. So that single leg squat test is hard. If you're having a hard time, I could hold onto a pole, something in front of me, or I could put my hand down behind as I shift out to the side. This is totally legit. Once again, can I accumulate a little time here, start to see what I'm missing? If I'm missing this range of motion, I guarantee you your body is making some sort of compromise with your running. Every time you land, you're not going to see my face, but you're going to see my feet, and that's all I care about. If I land with my toes out here when I squat, chances are every time I run, my toes land out a little bit here as well. And as I start to run faster, I start to run into some issues that way. Or I run up on my toes, and for those of you who are dealing with any kind of calf, Achilles issue, knee issue, IT band issue, it doesn't really matter because we're missing this range of motion that we just need. So that's our squat. Finally, last thing, we're going to do a little bit of running. And I'm just going to show you mostly the upper body. I'll bring this down just a little bit so you can see me a little bit better. This is one of our favorite running drills. We call this a stable arm drill. And running, we know that we need to be tall and we need to have some sort of core strength, but this drill for me really reinforces the type of core strength we need and also what our arm swing does for us. So first, I just want you to run over a 30-meter stretch. You're just going to run here, and you're just going to notice that when you move, your arms naturally swing contralaterally to your legs. You're hardwired for that. Your body's pretty smart. You got that nailed. Now what I want you to do, just to show you how our arms play such a big role when we run, is to run with your arms out straight like this. And you're going to notice that your arms are going to want to bounce around, so you're going to have to get tight. Don't let those arms bounce. And it may feel a little awkward. That's kind of the purpose. You're going to notice some tension here. You're going to notice your stride is going to shorten up a little bit. That's okay. Finally, the last little challenge, you're going to take your hands from straight out and you're going to bring them together all the way and run like this. Once again, they're going to bounce around, but you got to tighten up. Don't let it bounce. And that's the hardest one by far. And we can see that when I take my arm swing away, my body actually rotates a lot every time I run, and my arms help resist this rotation. So there's a key rotational concept of running that gives me a lot of power. We see this powerful little hip tick, right? If I exaggerate that as a boxer, there's this big hip follow through with the arm. With running, it's the same thing. So what happens is this, and my arm helps facilitate this when I swing. But when I take my arm swing away, I take my ability to resist that rotation away. It gets really, really hard, and then all of a sudden I have to work harder here, and my stride gets very, very stiff. So it really tells us two things. One, I need to be tall and connected and engaged here. And the second thing is that I always need my arm swing to be nice and fluid, and it needs to match my legs. If I'm running slower, the arm swing's smaller, but if I'm running faster, that arm swing needs to get bigger to deal with all those rotational forces. Back to our push-ups, it's coming full circle. If I spend all my day seated here, I do my push-ups out here, my posture and my shoulder positions suck. That's a technical coaching term, suck. And what happens is that my arm swing gets really stiff. And if my arm swing's really stiff, that's going to have an effect with the rest of my body. I know a lot of you guys are obsessed with heel striking, for example, but if I don't address my arms, I have no hope in addressing what my feet do. So push-ups, better shoulder position, running drill here, working on this rotation, figuring out that, oh yeah, I need to be very fluid with these arms, with a nice elbow tick out the back. That's going to help me deal with these speeds, stay connected for more connected running. Sound good? So guys, that ends our live demo for the moment. We're going to go back to... We're going to go live again to answer your questions, of course, but we're going to go back to our presentation. So as we went through, we had positional strength, our push-up, the squat test. Can we hang out down there for 10 minutes? Can we do our single leg squat? That gets a little harder. I might fall back on my butt. My knee may dive in. Can I fight against those forces? Can I do this little drill where I'm just running over a 30-meter section, playing with my hand position and just noticing, bringing awareness to how I'm running? And then, really, guys, what's the secret? Well, we have to treat ourselves as the athletes that we are. We're not just this one activity individual. We do so much through our day-to-day, from balancing on one leg, having to run up a set of stairs, help our friend move a couch. We want to go skiing or hiking on the weekends. A friend of ours wants us to go rock climbing. We want to be able to do all these things. So we need the strength and mobility for this to happen. Now, this 22,000 breaths a day quote is one of my favorites. That's the number of breaths the average person takes, between 20 and 22,000. Imagine the difference between strong, purposeful, deep, belly diaphragmatic breathing versus 22,000 short, shallow, chest stressed out breathing. I hate everyone, and this is why we have so much, not anger in this country, but road rage. We'll probably throw road rage in that category. Imagine if everyone in those cars was able to breathe a little bit deeper. They'd be that much more yoga blissed out, that much more mellow, and the world would spin a little bit better. It takes a lot of repetitions for us to reinforce a new skill from a motor control standpoint, but the good news is that we do so many repetitions a day that if I start to bring some awareness to my posture, my sitting, my standing, my push-ups, my running, and my breathing, I can start to practice these skills and get a lot better. So, as we said, questions, we'll answer them at the end, or we'll answer them. I'm going to give it over to Craig.
All right, guys, yeah, so I've been on the chat with you guys. There's a little, I think, a check mark box you can mark if it's a question. I've been writing down some of the ones you guys have been asking, so if I haven't addressed it as yet, we're going to get to the questions for sure. Want to just skip ahead there for me? So we want to talk a little bit about our 30-day challenge, and I want to talk first about how we came to this, because that is an important part of the story. So I have a sister who lives in North Carolina, and she was doing her first 10-miler last year, and I had been working with Nate for about a year at that point, and had seen such a change in just my overall physicality, and especially with my running and my ability to run since I had been injured. And I wanted her to have access to this amazing. I mean, I've been coached as a runner through high school, through college, Division I, as a marathoner. I'd been coached, and I had never really come to something that was as kind of different in its kind of fundamental thinking as I did when I met with Nate and a couple of the other coaches at the gym. And I wanted her to have access to this training, but there really wasn't any way to do it unless she flew here. So we, started this project of putting this training online and making it available to a broader audience. And the 30-day challenge has been the culmination of about 6 months of effort on our part to really put together a program that is fundamentally different than what we've seen on the web before, and that builds not just you towards a race, although you can use it in that way, but it builds a foundation so that you are not repeatedly just kind of bludgeoning your body into the ground, but instead you are creating a body that is a little bit more resilient and injury-proof. And I feel like I've gotten that benefit by working with Nate, and we're hoping that you guys can attain the same thing. So we go through specific runs, we go through strength workouts, we go through mobility and restoration, which is a huge part of this that a lot of people don't talk about. People talk about stretching and muscular length, but they really don't tie that into how that improves yourself as an athlete and exactly what that means, and how mobility is very different from just stretching. So I want to kind of just compare to what I used to do and what a lot of you guys are probably doing right now, which is you look at, this is Runner's World and a Runner's World site, and I saw this the other day. It's a foam rolling article, and we love soft tissue work, and we actually like some foam rollers as well, but this is what you get. You get kind of like this basic thing, roll on your IT band. Your IT band hurts. I saw somebody in the chat room saying they had IT band problems. A lot of people do at some point. And if this is the extent to which you are trying to fix things, you really have not gotten into, one, the understanding of what you're trying to do with that foam roller, and two, it's kind of a very a weak tool that is not really being targeted toward your specific problem. And we just wanted to go deeper. So, in these text-based plans that you get, this is Runner's World training plan for a marathon, and I think it's intermediate, 6 days of running. They give you a basic overview. We actually went ahead and bought this just so you can see what is inside, and they basically give you an overview of the plan, and then they give you a calendar that gives you what you should run every day, and this is very typical. They give you the mileage per day. You want to do hills, you want to do an easy run, and it's kind of a basic template. And in fact, if you want this, don't go buy the Runner's World version, because you can probably find some online for free. And the problem is that when you dig into one of these days, they don't give you a lot of information about how to move better as an athlete. How do you avoid injury? If you are having an IT problem, how does that play into your hill run of 8 miles? And they give you just a paragraph about this, but it doesn't really address you as an athlete and make you progress not only in terms of getting fit, but becoming a better runner. So we don't think this is the right type of guidance. We think that there's something more, and if you want to get out of that constant injury cycle, you have to go beyond just run 8 miles, or just run 3 miles, just run 4 miles, and then put a long run on the weekend. Hal Higdon is somebody that I have followed for a long time. He's probably the de facto standard of marathon training plans online, because you can just go on and find them. This is his 10K training program, and he does the same thing, which is he gives you a basic template. Run 3 miles, do a tempo run. He gives you a short description of what that actually means, and if you are coming back from an injury, or if you're dealing with some sort of problem, or maybe you're a new runner, or you're just trying to fit this in because you have a 6-week training plan, but you only have 3 weeks until your race, you're kind of wondering how do you treat your body, and then your knee starts hurting, how do you treat that? It doesn't really give you a deeper sense of like how you are supposed to be treating yourself as an athlete. And that was our goal, was to do something fundamentally different. And these kind of text-based charts are good, but they only get you maybe 20-30% of the way there. And the basic question is, how do you know if you're moving well? How do you know if you are running, and running is actually a healthful activity, as opposed to something that is, your body is resilient towards, like, you can survive it, but it's not actually doing you good as an athlete. It's not doing you good as a human. You're just able to survive your run, and you're getting injured, but you're able to survive to the next race, the next day of training. So we went about and tried to create something fundamentally different, and we want to give you a little bit of a sneak peek. If you go look at our website right now, you'll notice my sister was asking me, like, hey, where's the plan? I can't find it on your website. We actually have not released this to the public as yet. We're only doing it to small groups within our webinar for right now, and we want to give you a peek behind the scenes of what we've been working on.
That's you lucky people.
So when you get into the 30-day challenge, it's a 30-day program that is meant to build you as a foundation, build yourself up from the ground up, so to speak, as a runner and as an athlete. So it includes strength training, but not just like, hey, let's do some push-ups. As you can see, when we do push-ups, it's fundamentally different than how you might have done a push-up before. Like, we talk about it as how it pertains to runners. Why are you doing push-ups? Do you want like a bigger chest and big biceps? Probably that's not your only goal. Probably it may not be your goal at all. What we really want to talk about is how that translates to you as a runner, and that is what I've seen as one of Nate's athletes. I've seen how like a lot of these movements actually translate into me feeling better just in general as I move throughout my day, but especially when I try to express my athleticism through running.
I don't know, Craig. I think bigger biceps are always a good goal to have.
So we like testing, because we like to show you that on day 1 and day 30 we're going to test not only you as a runner, but as an athlete for mobility and for strength, to see like where are you and have you moved. We expect that at the end of 30 days you should feel fundamentally different in your body if you do the 30-day challenge. So then there's videos every day about what to do, why you're doing it, and then how to do it. So if it's something quote unquote simple like a push-up, how do you really make sure you're doing it the right way so that it is translating into your running? Nate went through the kind of some of the diagnostic tools that we use, which are the squat test, the push-up test, and if you can't squat with your feet flat on the ground, that is indicative, or somebody was saying that they had some shin pain when they squat down, and maybe you're not squatting all the time, so you're like, oh, well, it doesn't bother me every day because I'm not squatting all the time, but that shin pain or that inability to keep your feet on the floor is indicative of tightness that is going to express itself in the form of, most likely in the form of an injury, or in the form of bad biomechanics while you're running, which will probably lead to an injury. And that that repetitive motion, running is nothing if not repetitive, over and over causes that type of repetitive type injury. So we have drill days where we talk about running form, and specifically we give you exercises that are meant to translate into running and things to think about on your next run. We think strength training is a huge part about preventing injury, and so we definitely go into strength training. We have cross training as part of it. You're not going to be running on every day because we believe that, like, a variety of movement is important to your training plan. Now, a lot of you guys have said you're training for a race, and I think that we get this constant question of like, well, what do I do if I'm already training for a race? I already have one of these charts. I know what I'm doing. We have built this program to be flexible. It's meant to be a foundational running program, so you can add it to your training. If you want to take your tempo run of, let's say, 7 or 8 miles, and you put it into the tempo run day or into one of the training days, you can do that. And you can move this around the way that it works for you. The part that we really think is important is adding in these elements of mobility, strength, cross-training, so that you are treating yourself as an athlete and learning to move better. It's the reason we did videos is we want to show you exactly what it means to move in the right way, and then how that should translate into your running. So we go into things like squats and sit-ups. We go into arm circles, breathing, all these things you've done before, but you haven't necessarily done it in the way that it should be translated into proper running form. We think that this type of support and guidance is definitely making a difference. We have people in the program right now that are having great results already, and we have things like our launch equipment. We have little tools that we think are cheap and really easy to attain that will help you out if you have injuries, if you have things you're dealing with currently. And now the basic premise that we went after initially was we wanted to take Nate's training and kind of spread out. And Nate is limited on his time for individuals. He coaches a lot of elite athletes at this point.
I'm a busy guy.
And he charges $110 per hour for that training. And we wanted to make this really accessible. So our price is $127. We have a discount for you. We wanted to price it so that it's less than a race or less than a pair of shoes, things that you guys know you need to do. But hopefully this can be a kind of turning point for you in your running career. I know that the way I look at training now is so different than the way I did for 20 years when I was training competitively, and I wish that I had this to begin with. And so while we're on the webinar, if we're still on, we're going to have a discount for you, and I'm going to put this up you should see it showing up in your chat window. Let me just make sure this works. There we go. So you should see it popping up in your chat window. It's $97 if you sign up while we're still on the webinar. We think that this is one of the best ways to integrate our way of looking at strength training into whatever sort of running program that you have. And it's a 30-day challenge. You have access to it for a year. So if you can't start tomorrow, that's totally fine. We have some people who bought the program and said, hey, I'm about to start training for a marathon in a few weeks, so I'm going to integrate it into the first month of my marathon training program. Awesome. We really think that this should be a way that you build up your body, and you should feel different at the end of the 30 days.
Awesome. Hey guys, and we're calling this, we talk about the running challenge because we really wanted to go beyond just strength. This is really about lifestyle. This is helping you guys, empower you guys to do what you want to do in your life, and sometimes that means training for this marathon for the next 16 to 20 weeks. For some of you might be like, hey, I'm actually going to go and hike in the Swiss Alps, and I want to do that without worrying about my knee. Other guys want to do a little color run or an obstacle race. We want you to empower you guys to be able to do all these things. And going back to that running fallacy, it has to be more than just running, because as human beings, we're more than just runners. We're lifters, we're pushers, we're jumpers, we're throwers, and we need to practice those things to really see what we can do and live those fuller lives. So we're really excited. We want you guys to, not only are you investing in us, but you're really investing in yourself. With this program, guys, which means that if you do this program, you buy it, and you're not happy with it for whatever reason, you email us, we will instantly refund you. So there's really no risk to trying this program. That's how much we believe in it. We've put our whole life's work into this thing up to this point, and we really think that for those who've done it so far, they've really had some profound changes. So we're really excited. And guys, thank you so much for staying on and listening to us. Now back to those questions. We're going to go live again here. And I know I see a lot of questions there. We want to answer questions about the program itself. If you guys have questions about, hey, when can I start? You can actually start this anytime. We have this set up that I know some of you guys are busy. Maybe you want to buy now, but you can't start on Monday. That's okay. You can actually buy this program now and start in the next couple weeks. We have like a little activation button that we send to you. let me see here. I'm going to go after presenting to everyone. There we go. Back to this live screen here. That was always a big question with the Run Experience Challenge. Guys, we got daily emails in there sending to you every day. Just a little reminder of what the day's about, the purpose, easy access and log into the program. Athletes have been in it already. They've definitely seen a lot of success so far. It's been fantastic. So Craig, you got some questions for me?
We have tons of questions. Let's try the first one. Hold on. So I'm gonna dig back. And guys, if I'm not getting to your question, feel free to repost it. I'm going through the chat window and I'm pulling out things I've seen, but feel free to repost those.
Yeah, guys, repost those questions. We have about 60 plus in you in here, and we may not be able to answer everyone's individual question, but what we'll try to do is answer the big questions that chances are a lot of you guys are asking at the same time.
So Ben has asked, he's been running steadily for about 5+ years now. The last couple have been a little bit painful. I definitely recognize that. And he's tried minimal running. Born to Run got him into that, and he's having some foot and knee trouble now. And he says any sort of tips and advice would be awesome.
Fantastic. So for those of you guys who are unsure, you know, the Born to Run, it's a fantastic book. It's a really fun read. It gets you fired up. You know, they paint this very big picture, and one of the things they kind of say is that, you know, Nike is evil. If anyone working for Nike is on this webinar, I don't really think they're evil. I'm just kidding. But in that book, that's kind of one of the major developments, and they say that the shoes that have been built up since the 70s and 80s have gotten fancier, higher tech, but we've seen greater incidences of injury. So if these shoes are supposed to solve our problem, why aren't they? And in the book, he goes back to this group of runners who actually go the other direction. They've been running without shoes for a very long time. And since then, there's been this minimalist shoe running trend where people are running in barefoot running shoes or shoes that really just have a little pad of rubber on the bottom. Well, as you can imagine, we don't get hurt just because of the shoe or not shoe on our foot. We get hurt because it's more of a reflection of our whole lifestyle, which includes that shoe. But I could change my shoe, but if I'm still sitting, I'm not stretching, I'm not getting stronger, I'm not working on my running drills and technique, I haven't really changed anything. So the little shoes there are a great step in that direction. It gets you a little bit more aware of your running technique. Sometimes it can help with that knee pain, but all often if I'm not working on all the other things that we talked about today, I'm going to trade one problem for the other.
All right. Let's see. Got a lot of people who are doing half Ironmans, full marathons. Let's see. So Vega, or I'll call him Vic Vega, is having outside pain in his right knee, and he thinks it's his IT band. Do you have any sort of ideas on like what to do for IT band stuff and how that works into our general philosophy of the 30-day challenge, as well as like our strength first philosophy?
Absolutely. So a huge part with any IT band problem is it's usually not the IT band itself, but it's actually this outer part of the quad. I'm just going to tilt the screen down so you guys can see. You know, when I'm wearing kind of skinny jeans, so I think you guys can see a little bit. You know, when I sort of flex my leg, right, I've got different aspects of my quadus force. We've got 4 major muscle groups going on here. A lot of times when we're feeling pain on the outside of our knee, we associate it with this IT band, but usually what's occurring is that this big, beefy part of the quad, this vastus lateralis, is actually adhered and a little stuck to that IT band or the hamstring. So what we need to do is get a roller. I'm specifically using my water bottle here to show you how I could roll. Now imagine I'm on the floor, and a lot of times when we roll back and forth this way. But what I want you guys to purposely do is to roll this way. I need to go cross friction, and I need to separate that IT band from the vastus lateralis, and there I can start to make some progress. So that's a really key thing with those rollers. We actually go through weekly videos on just how to mobilize this and other aspects of your body because we believe it's such an important part of that 30-day challenge. So as you go through, not only will you be getting that daily advice and guidance on running tips, but systematically how to go through key areas of the body that cause problems for every runners.
All right, we got a couple that just came in. I'm going to do the one that just came in because I like this. Brad Weaver is getting back and running after about a year break, and he's doing about 6 miles right now on his distance runs, and he's looking to do an ultra, so he's got big goals. It's a 50K in September. And he's wondering whether he's being too ambitious to go from 6 months. And then, I mean, as somebody who's done 50Ks before, I would definitely talk about strength and foundational strength as part of that.
For sure. So, Brad, it's a great thing. I work with a lot of runners. I've worked and trained a lot of runners bridging up to that ultra distance, or triathletes going from the Sprint Olympic to the half and the Ironman. And one of the questions that I always ask is like, well, if we need to be running strong, which has to do with my posture and my position and my ability to maintain a strong, stable mechanics for the duration of my race, well, how running strong do I need to be? As you can imagine, these strength demands are a little bit different if I'm running around the block for 2 miles or 5K versus regularly pounding the pavement or the trails for 15 miles, 20 miles, and so forth. If I had you just stand in one place for 5 or 6 plus hours, which would almost be the duration of that 50K, you would be exhausted. It would be so hard. So it gives you the sense of just not only have I got the cardiorespiratory demand, I just have this gravity demand, this postural demand, and if I'm sitting all day and I'm just running, this is going to fall apart real quick. So kind of what Craig was saying, we need that strength. We need to regularly incorporate some type of strength and conditioning so that we're a solid runner. We need to temper that and be patient with our running volume. It is always better to show up at the starting line healthy than to show up feeling like you've trained but you've actually hurt yourself in the process. And I go through this with my athletes all the time. It's called making fear-based decisions. You're like, oh shit, I need to do all this training, otherwise I'm not going to be ready. And that becomes the death knell. So always try to separate yourself from that emotional, knee-jerk reaction and try to be a little purposeful and a little bit more patient along with that strength.
All right, we got a bunch of people signing up for guys already. We have about 4 minutes until the end of the hour. We will stay on to answer more questions. So if you guys can stay on, we welcome you to stay on with us. We will answer these questions. And definitely, we have a couple more questions coming in about the program. Whether you can start later, you definitely can. A lot of you guys are facing injuries, and you're going to hear us say this again, but over and over, whether it's your shins or whether it's your calf muscles, and we'll talk about these specifically, but a lot of our philosophy is around this strength and mobility. And what happens when you don't have that strength and mobility is that it shows up in weird ways. It shows up because your legs duck out a little bit because you don't have you can't get into a squat with your knees out, so you find that your feet duck out, and then that puts on pressure onto your tibia and fibula, and you end up with shin splints, or you end up with knee problems. And a lot of our philosophy, and specifically our program, is about addressing that from the kind of origination. Now you can take medication, you can put ice, you can take time off, but eventually you have to face the fact that this is coming from somewhere. It's usually a biomechanical problem, it's a problem with your stride, it's a problem with how your body is moving, and it's a problem with not being strong in the right places. This is not about being, six-pack abs with huge biceps. It's about being strong as a runner. And that's what our program is really about. That's the way that I train now. That's the way that Nate trains his athletes. So you're gonna hear us as we answer your questions, and we're gonna continue to do that. You'll hear us go back to this idea of foundational strength and building yourself up to be the athlete that can perform as a runner. So with that, we have some. Let's see. We talked about
some of the maybe the arm swing one quick.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So two kind of shorter answer ones. I saw Leslie asked this earlier, so I wanted to get to it. If we're doing the arm swing drill, beginning of our time, well, if I'm consistently putting about 5 to 10 minutes of drill work in a couple times a week, that really goes a long way towards bringing awareness, especially when I'm going from zero. If you're going from 0 to 10 minutes, you are a champion, and you're going to start to really see some differences there. There's certainly run drill days where I could actually add some other drills on top of that. But that's a great place to start. Crystal, let me see here. I just asked, okay, Chris asked, hey, how often do you need to strength train per week when training for a marathon? We understand the time limits. It's so hard to balance all these things. But we're really pushing to say that, hey, My strength training is part of my athletic training. It's an expression of me being an athlete, and I need that athleticism to be able to hold myself up and withstand all that marathon training. So it's not an additional thing. It's part and parcel of the whole training program. That said, I don't need to do more than 2 to 3 sessions a week, and I can be very creative. And in fact, in our 30-day program, all of our strength sessions do not involve a gym or any weights. It's all body weight work that you can do on your own, and we did that purposely outside to show you that we're not asking you to sign up for gym membership or to do anything more difficult than just adding something in on the sidewalk after you've warmed up on a run for 5 minutes or adding something at the end. So doing that a little bit goes a long way. Fantastic. Let's see some other questions in here.
A couple ones about plantar fasciitis. And a bunch of people that have had that, and maybe you can talk about not only, you know, we talk about soft tissue work and that sort of thing, but also about like how does this come about? And now that if you're in that spot where you're having a hard time with it, like what type of soft tissue work and what type of running is appropriate, if any?
Cool. So the plantar fasciitis is an interesting one, and it usually has to do, obviously, with our feet, what's going down there. So I'm going to tilt this camera down, and I'm actually going to take my shoes off so that you can see them right here. And this is the key thing here, guys. The plantar fascia, they kind of connect here. They extend all the way back around the heel. Then they start to feed it into our Achilles, our soleus, our gastroc, and go further up the chain. So we have this one long chain that attaches all the way from down here all the way up. Now, usually what happens when we're feeling some sort of tension and pulling down here, a lot of times it's our calves and other things that are pulling so tight, they're adding so much tension here that we're feeling this pain. We can do a few things to help ourselves out. One, I could take a lacrosse ball, or once again, I'm going to use my water bottle. We have a lacrosse ball right here. We actually give you a link in the program and show you how to use this yourself. Just by stepping on and rolling on this thing and flexing your feet is a great way to improve this thing. Now, the other thing, too, is that I need to work on my calves, and I need to do it the same way I do it with my quads. So if I'm just kind of here rolling my calves back and forth, this is kind of weak sauce. What I actually want to do is get cross friction back and forth this way. And I can really get into different aspects of my calf right now. I want to focus on that lower soleus. I can get on the outside edge here. I get in the middle, I get on the inside edge, I could do some circles, and I'm just trying to hunt around, find little knots that are in there. I guarantee you, if you have some kind of plantar fasciitis issue, your calves are tight. They're beef jerky. They're not that medium rare filet mignon we're going after. Finally, I need to address my squat position. Chances are I can't sit down here because my ankles are so stiff. So getting you to spend time on your squat a little bit better, and even if I have to be up a little bit higher, where I'm just kind of sitting here slowly, I can get down lower. This will start to improve that ankle mobility as well. But remember, the feet have to be straight. If my feet turn out, I'm actually not accomplishing anything. My feet collapse, and it just prolongs the problem. So a little rolling, a little bit of mobility in that foot and that ankle, and then just some positional stuff with my squat goes a long way.
All right. So Chris has asked, Chris Mrisberg, I think I'm saying that right. How often do you need to strength train per week if you're training for a marathon?
So did we get that one already? I think we might have talked about that. Craig is in the zone right now. He's answering things online. You know, we talked about, doing 2-3 days a week, but really making it part of your whole training. So we don't see it necessarily as an additional piece, but the whole thing comes together.
Okay, hold on, let me see. Somebody had asked when you're doing the squat training, the diagnosis says, like, are your feet supposed to be flat the whole time? And her feet were ducking out a little bit. So can you kind of put your feet out if you can't get into that position? What do you do?
So there's a lot of different things I can do with my squat, and one of the things I could notice that if I'm really having trouble, I'm going to tilt this guy down again so you guys can see my feet. I can do a few things. First of all, one of the things is I could just go a little bit wider with my feet, and I could try to squat down here or something like this. This is going to give my ankles a little bit more room and my hips a little bit more room. Conversely, if my ankles are getting better, I want more and more of a challenge, I could start to bring my feet together and I could try to squat down. And this is going to really emphasize those ankles, right? I have to sit up here, take a little break. This is hard to sit down here. But once again, this is like that reverse hand push-up. This is my little truth checker on how much ankle mobility I have. And I just want you to accumulate some time. So literally, I could hold on to a couch. I could hold on something in front. This shouldn't feel super painful and hard, but it should be a little bit of work as well. It should feel a little grindy. And just by starting to spend some time in there is good. But to answer your question, ultimately with a squat, we always want heels, big toes, and pinky toes pressed in the ground. Another way to think about it is this little tripod stance between my first and fifth metatarsal and my heel. I want to think about those 3 contact points firmly in the ground. I don't want to be up on the toes. I don't want to be in the heels. I ultimately want to be balanced. That's the goal there.
So Brad has been having some trouble with soreness in the calves because I get it. So he's starting to run off his heel. I didn't know what he meant. He said starting to run off my heels. I think what he's doing is trying to run more midfoot toward his forefoot, and he's having obviously soreness in the calf. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
So there's a huge adjustment there, and this gets back into that minimalist training. A lot of people who are typical heel strikers, it's not necessarily just that their heels are hitting the ground, it's what else is going on. People are heel strikers because their posture sucks, in all honesty. They don't have any core strength, and because of that, their hips are tight. They don't get any hip extension out the back. So what happens is that this leg can't go any other direction. Instead of being able to swing out the back, and we do things like leg swings in our program, how to improve this, the leg kind of goes back and has nowhere to go but crashing way forward. This puts a lot of pressure on the knee and the low back, and we see a lot of pain there. So athletes, what they do is they start to shift from, instead of running on their heels, they try to run upward on their toes. But if I change too quickly or in the wrong way, I'm really trading one problem for another. And my calves, who are not used to doing all this work, are all of a sudden going overtime, and they're like, what the fuck? What's happening, right? My calves are totally freaking out. So I need to work on this transition slow. And I need to follow the order of operations. You learn this in, algebra in high school? Is that order of operations? Yeah, the FOIL method. I can't remember. It's been a little while. But I need to follow things in a certain way. And just going back to that push-up, we need to work on better posture and hip position. And if I can do this, my shoulders relax, I have a better arm swing, I think about leading with my hips, all of a sudden I can start to pull my feet up a little faster. I've got a little bit faster cadence, and ta-da, magically, your foot strike starts to fix itself. So really remember this. Your foot strike is a reflection of the rest of your body. It's the reflection of your posture, your strength, your running position. And if your foot strike sucks, you're unhappy with it, I can't just change from running on my heels to my toes without something else going wrong.
So Blue Gator 20, who I think is just signed up for the program, he is running his first NYC half marathon in March. I've run that one before. I think it's the one that starts off in the park and then goes all the way downtown to the financial district and ends there. It's a quick it's definitely a quick half. And he's new to running. Okay, and he's just looking for some general advice. My first personal take on this is to start with this kind of foundational stuff so that you are building from a place of good mechanics, especially if you're new to running. One of the benefits you have is that you don't have 20 years of bad habits. I had some nasty bad habits I had to correct for, and you don't have that as yet, likely. So it's definitely probably within our philosophy to start with including strength in your training early on, but maybe you can talk a little bit more.
So guys, a huge thing that we're talking about, a big part of this program, the big key part of any success in athlete is not necessarily making big, huge changes, but making tiny, small, little incremental changes that when they added up together has this big effect we're looking for. And really, when we're making these changes, we're talking about your day-to-day habits. Because I don't want you to necessarily think about your breathing and your posture all day. There's way more interesting things to think about. The Super Bowl's on this weekend. What's the spread? I don't know. I need to, though, put a big investment in the beginning. And this 30-day program is just a way to gently nudge you and remind you to reset your baseline of good habits, showing you, hey, if I give myself this 10 to 15 minutes a day or this 5 minutes a day, I'm going to start to see a profound change. That change is also going to be slow, and it's going to be steady and done in a way that my body will be able to absorb and adapt so that I come out the other end feeling like a new person and not feeling a little beat up and frustrated and everything else. So that kind of slow, steady change is so important with our mobility, with our strength, with our running drills, with our run technique, and our whole approach. So that's really key.
All right, so let's see what other questions we have. I'm going to go back to where we were at the beginning. Oh, you do?
Just up at the top.
Oh, yeah? Go for it.
So Sarah asks, do you have any previews for your strength mobility workouts? Also, do you have any suggestions on how best to balance these workouts with training? Naturally, I like to do strength on easy run days, but find my legs are toast on my runs as I'm turning things up with marathon training, and how do I balance these things? I run a program in San Francisco where endurance athletes get to work with me. I get to work with athletes at every level, from high school to adult amateur, to currently I'm helping prep a female for the Marathon Olympic trials. I've helped professional triathletes and ultra runners prepare. I understand we only have so much energy to expend in any given week. And if I'm pushing harder in my marathon training or my goals are more ambitious, that means that I've taken energy away to be able to apply to other things. But that is not a get out of jail free card. In fact, we can also argue this, that the harder you push yourself in training, the more miles you've just put on your car. And that means that you need to get your oils changed, your tires rotated, the chain lubricated, whatever you need to do. I'm switching from car to bike analogies really quick, to be able to maintain that extra duration and stress. So there's a certain degree that if you're signing up for all this long training and hard training and your goals are that much higher, you are also signing up for all the mobility and restoration and recovery work to balance you out. Now, for the strength, a lot of times what the strength can be is really basic stuff to basically help activate and remind what that basic posture and position and strength is. So I can accomplish a lot if I'm, working with my, marathon, Olympic hopeful. I'm not crushing her with 300 burpees. But what I might have her do is a couple sets of 3 to 5 push-ups just to remind her what good shoulder position is and maintain a base level of strength. In the off season, I can scale that up. It can play a bigger part. But I know that I want to prioritize those hard running workouts when they count, and that this stuff plays a second but very important supportive role. So you can certainly overdo the strength. We don't want to do that. We just want to keep that balance.
So we have some more people signing up. I want to say, if you guys are still on, it's because you're invested in yourself as runners. It's because you're interested in learning how to train and in getting to the spot where you feel like running is a health down. I really encourage you to sign up for the 30-day challenge. We have had, it's a community. We have a private Facebook group once you join. Nate's in there. People are posting pictures of where they're running. They're encouraging each other. They ask questions. Nate answers them. I'm on there. It really is a community, and one that we're continually building, because we really feel like this philosophy in running is an important thing to spread throughout the running community. We go out to races. We definitely want your help. We want you to tell your friends, look, hey, it doesn't have to be the way that it has always been. You don't have to ride that injury line. So many of these questions we have are all about injury, and it's a little sad that our sport is pushing us in this point where we want to perform, we want to train, we want to get better, but it is constantly dealing with these injuries, and we really, really, really want to, maybe it can never be eliminated fully, but we really, really want to improve that. We want people to treat their bodies in a way that makes them resilient and better as you go forward, as opposed to broken down.
Yes, absolutely. I just remembered Sarah just asked another part of the question, and this is important for all of you guys. Hey, do you have any previews for these, strength and mobility workouts? A lot of the workouts, as I said, are going to be in that, kind of 15 to 30-minute range, building up a little bit. A lot of times, for the strength workouts, we do little couplets of squats and push-ups and sit-ups and lunges, and as I said, some very approachable things that we can all do at home, but we talk about it in a very unique way. And if you want to get a sense of our videos of our editing of the program, you can look at all the free content we put out all the time. Make sure that you're on our Facebook page at The Run Experience and that you like us, that you prioritize our posts. We're putting out videos. We actually just published a video with competitorrunning.com and how you can improve your jumping and how your jumping mechanics makes you better. You could also go directly to our website, therunexperience.com, go over to our blog. We have so many videos there showing you all of this stuff as little reminders and just for ways to improve.
All right, so we're going to go back to some of these questions that we haven't gotten to as yet. Man, plantar fasciitis seems to just be like a plague. So many people are dealing with that. Let's see.
Opie signed up. Thank you, Opie.
Absolutely. So Luke is talking about having some pain in the back of the right thigh, which goes into like the lower part of his butt, and it doesn't really want to go away. He's looking to qualify for Boston. Awesome. I've run Boston a number of times. It's an amazing race. And he's looking at, like, what I guess he's asked, the question he wants to ask is, what is the right way to think about pain in that area? Like, what that might that be a signal of, if it's kind of like the back, it sounds like it's posterior chain.
So a lot of times if we're dealing pain, kind of in the glutes and the hammies, usually it's the hamstrings that are just very, very tight. And when my body functions, it's really supposed to be functioning together as a unit. Now, when I lose my posture and hip position, I'm not going to go super geeked out into this just a little bit. I need to make sure that my pelvis is pretty level, and what that allows me to do is keep my hips and my butt engaged a little bit so that my hamstrings and my glutes can fire together. That's really important. But what happens when we get tired, we tend to default to some sort of arched position in the low back, and if you don't believe me, chances are when you stand around during the day, you're like this, 22,000 reps of this, I'm telling my body this is okay, this is where I'm going to run when I get really tired too. And what happens is the glutes aren't engaged anymore, they actually shut off, and now the hamstring is fighting and holding on for dear life. So for those of you who feel like you've got chronically tight hamstrings, are always stretching them out, and it doesn't help, listen up. This is for you. I need to think about posture and position, and the more I can get my glutes engaged in the business of running, the more those hamstrings are going to be able to relax and release a little bit. That's really, really key. This is also true, especially for those who are dealing with any kind of electric pain. Sometimes we're seeing some piriformis or some other muscle in there gets so tight, it's actually impinging on some nerves. And even more so, we just need to work on posture and position. We need to get in with a lacrosse ball and those glutes to open those guys up too. I just saw a cool question. It was a little bit further down the list. It's from Leslie. She says, hey, I have a coach who already sets up my running plan each week. Would I be able to integrate this 30 plan into that? And absolutely. Craig has talked about this before. Share this with your running coach. Chances are they'll be like, yeah, we would love for you to do all of these things. The basic structure of the run workouts pretty much follow what most runners, will get, what most coaches will give you. There's one day where you're building some volume. There's one day where you're focusing on some technique. There's one day where you're focusing on some speed or some hill type work. And then there's another day where you just kind of shake it out. You just have some fun. So that 3 to 4 day running template is something that you could follow with your specific coach. And if you need to scale the running up or down, you absolutely can. But we still think that the drills we're giving you, the intention, the focus on breathing, on cadence, will really, really be helpful. So we absolutely believe that that could kind of go together for sure. Let's see here. We asked that. We got into that. Guys, we'll be continuing to run this program a lot this year, but we do have this great opportunity today. We understand that some of you feel like, oh man, I can't afford this right now. I'm really psyched about it. We totally understand. It's hard. Stay signed up with us. Stay in touch. We're always putting out free content for you guys because we really believe in this and we really want to help you. Facebook message us, email us. We'll always try to help you out, just like we're staying long today to answer those questions. Later on, if you feel like you can be part of the program, we would love to have you. But just know that even if you can't, we're still here for you. We're still going to help you out.
So we have a question about the arm swing drill, and the question was, at the beginning of your run, if you were to include this, how long should they do it for? This is actually specifically the type of thing that we do in the challenge. But like, how long should they put it in? And you know, I guess another question would be, when will they see benefit? How should they see and measure that?
So we got into that a little bit earlier too, but it's good to go again as well. You know, sometimes these drills are a way to do it in the beginning of our run to draw some awareness to our posture and position. The same way if you were to go to a yoga class, you might just lie still for a moment and be quiet and just get into your breathing, where you're just trying to push all the other thoughts out of your brain and just focus on the task at hand. So important. If I'm distracted all the time, or I'm stressed out about work, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my kids, I'm just going through the motions of this run, and that's a nice stress reliever. We have that type of run in our program, but if that's all my runs are, it ends up being this, you know, I'm limiting myself. I put a ceiling on my own, you know, progress. So I need to bring some awareness, and these drills are designed as a way to just start thinking about different aspects of your running, and just the sheer act of thinking and bringing awareness goes such a long way. So just thinking about it that way is huge. As I said, for these drills, most of the time we're not going to spend more than 5 or 10 minutes, but what you will do is practice that drill specifically, and then we'll involve a run at the end of varying lengths, 10, 15, 20 plus minutes. We're just very aware, and you're thinking about that one drill that you just kind of did and were reinforced. Thank you, Wayne, for signing up. We're really excited. Thank you, Chronology at Chronology Presents, for attending. We're really excited to be that you came with us. Let's see here. Any braces to use?
The question was about arthritis in his right knee. It's Campirano says that he has arthritis in his right knee and his left is getting pretty bad. Do you recommend any braces?
So this is a hard one. I need to know why I'm using the brace and what purpose it's serving. And it has to go back to that bigger conversation on mechanics and stability. There's certain things that can help us out, right? They literally purposely act like a little bit of a crutch. I could put, you know, orthotics in this category, or that little strap that you put just below your knee to help your knee, or above your knee for IT band. But if I put those things on and I'm still out to lunch and I'm still not working on all of these things to be a complete human being and athlete, I'm actually just maybe delaying the stay. I'm putting a stay on the execution, right? It's still going to occur. So what I actually need to do, if I'm you and I already have arthritis, is that I've already dug myself into a little bit of a hole, and I need to stop and wake up and start to make some serious changes. I need to understand that with basic squatting, I can learn how to, for example, prioritize hip position over knee position. And if I can learn how to do this, for example, and get down a little lower, I'm going to start to get better engagement and support in the hamstrings and the glutes, where I'm not totally firing on my knees. So many of us are dealing with arthritis in the knees because their knees go forward or they go in. And if I do this 22,000 times a day, 5 days a week for the last 20, 30 years, what do you think is going to happen? I'm slowly grinding a hole in my knee. And it's that big of a deal. So I cannot afford to have poor mechanics. They have to be perfect. That might mean in the short term that while you're working on these mechanics and these run drills, you're focusing on soft surfaces, runs at 5, 10, 15 minutes. If you want to get a little extra conditioning, maybe you're doing some hiking or some swimming or some cycling, and then in addition to that, strength training. So there's always ways to work around, but the key thing with something like arthritis is that we want to keep you as pain-free as possible, and we want to slowly build you back up, because if you're in the arthritis world, you've gone past so many signs that the road is ending, that basically the road has ended, and then we got to get you back up nice and slow.
All right. Let me see. What other questions should we go back to answer? I'm just looking back towards the beginning here. We talked about plantar fasciitis. We talked about training for marathons and how that integrates with our program. Increasing overall strength. We had some questions about like calf tightness. Did we talk about that yet?
We did. We got into the calves.
Let's see.
I'm looking too.
Some people were talking about custom orthotics and then doing yoga and a foam roller. So Ben had some questions about custom orthotics and their effect on his knees. We did, and I think that really goes back to what we said before about your biomechanics are definitely going to affect your physiology, and when you use custom orthotics, which I did before, I didn't find that they worked tremendously well for me, but when I had problems, that was one of the ways that you can go about fixing it, right? If you are putting your foot into its proper form by using your muscles and your fascia, that is awesome. And if you get to a point where you're not able to do that because you're either, your feet are not strong in the way that they should be, or they're overly flexed, or you're injured, and you're going to prop them up with orthotics that are especially meant for you, that can alleviate some pain. Ultimately, you definitely want your feet to be able to stand on their own right and have the strength and flexibility in your feet and your fascia to hold your body up while you're running. But in the meantime, a lot of people use orthotics to kind of make sure they can keep running and keep their feet in good form. Definitely, as far as doing yoga, I just had a yoga session yesterday and followed it up with a nice long run. Yoga is great for mobility, for opening up your hips. Hips, like we sit all day. I'm sitting a lot of the day, working on stuff for the run experience often, and I alternate between a sitting position and a standing desk that we're at right now. And yoga for opening up the hips is fantastic because hip tightness is something that we all face if we're sitting down. Yeah.
The other thing that's really nice about yoga that I really appreciate is just that mindfulness and approach towards breathing. As human beings, day to day, we are shitty-ass breathers. We're very shallow. We're up in our chest. And once again, I'm just increasing these reps, telling my body this is okay, this is what I should do, that when I get put into stressful situations like running and training, that's where I go. And it gets a little more technical, but when I'm breathing up here, I don't have very good diaphragm function. I don't have the ability to stabilize my abdominals. My low back gets kind of trashed and my hips get tighter, and I see this cascading effect of all these issues. So even just something as important as your breathing can have a profound effect not only on you mentally but physically. I'm looking earlier, and I see some good questions here. What are some good stretches that are best ones to do before and after your run? Well, beginning, we don't want to necessarily stretch statically. It's important to be very dynamic because we're trying to increase blood flow. We're trying to activate all the little stabilizers, get our core nice and warmed up, get our central nervous system warmed up and activated to handle our running. If any of you guys have gone out for a run and you kind of feel asleep, or your feet are like dragging, or you're trudging, and you wake up 30 minutes, well, that's how long it took you to actually get into your own body. So we can accelerate that process by, doing some things. And we've done videos on this. We've got, how to warm up our hips. We did it last year. Go check it out on our blog. But, even just stopping after run and just doing some standing leg swings, dropping down to the ground and doing some hip circles. Sometimes we show that. Those are two of my favorite little things where I just drop down here, put one foot forward. Really what I'm working on is just two halves of the squat, right? I can get down deep into this leg. I can extend this back leg. I can come forward, back in the squat. I could go ahead and do the other side, extend on here. Those are great things to do before I run or 5 minutes into my run. I want to save the static stuff afterwards. Another person asked a question about active isolated stretching. This active isolated stretching is a nice way, and that Activite is, and I'm not just that active word is not just a thing where I'm just being passive through this stretch. What I'm actually doing is contracting some opposing muscle groups where I create a little resistance, and then I'm able to get a little bit more of a stretch. It's definitely a good tool in the belt, but it's not fully complete in my opinion because it doesn't address the mobility. So if I'm doing active isolated hamstring stretches, but then I still let myself stand around like this all day and I'm a little overextended and arched, well, guess what? My glutes are never on, so whenever I use my hamstrings again, they're going to tighten right back up. So we just always want to remember the bigger picture. Why am I working on the stretch? How is this going to help restore and improve my general mechanics and my running strength? And if I'm not doing those things, maybe the stretch becomes a little bit of a dead end. So guys, it is 1:30. Do we have any more questions here?
We finished those questions. I know one person is going through the purchase process right now. I'm going to keep that open for a couple more minutes, and I'll send you to our page on that. Thank you guys so much for attending. We really, really appreciate your time. And like Nate said, whether you're able to sign up for the program or not today, we do have the discount. But if you can't sign up, we still want you guys to be part of our community. You can join us on Facebook. We post videos there, and we definitely want to continue to help you down this path of becoming a stronger, more injury-free runner.
Yeah. Absolutely. Crystal, I just saw you asked this again, and I'm sorry I forgot your question. Thank you for being so patient being on here. You've dealt with some IT band pain, and you feel like it comes in from the adductors. Well, a lot of times what happens here is that when I've lost this stability and position, I actually start to have to pull up with my leg more with my hip flexors, which is another area where my adductors start to connect. So these muscles get short because I'm sitting here all day. I can't really extend. I can't squeeze my butt. I can't really engage my hamstrings, so these guys start working overtime. And it's very common, I used to be a triathlete too, to have some golf ball sized knots in this leg. And what happens is every time my leg is a little unstable, because my glutes are not engaged, I'm starting to see issues here, but I also see a lot of shortness and irritation here. This is common for any of you triathletes or runners who've cramped up in your quads, right? Or have dealt with any kind of low back pain or hip flexor pain. It's the same problem. So I could take that roller and I could get on the inner part of my quad and really work in here. Once again, not just going back and forth this way, but really grinding back and forth this way. That will be really key, as it's a little help there. And then finally, I know we have one more question, Tracy. There is a replay available for this webinar, guys. We're going to be sending a recorded version of this out to all of you guys in a couple hours, so don't worry if you haven't been able to see it. We'll send that out for you, no problem. Guys, thank you again so much. Just to reiterate, Craig, we spent an hour and a half with you guys. This was our biggest webinar yet. We're glad that you guys are here. You're interested. We're here to help you out. We're so thankful for everyone who's bought this program. We're excited to work with you. For those of you who decided not to buy today, we hope you stay part of our community. Ask questions, post photos. We're just excited that you're out and you're here with us today. So have a good day, guys, and we will hopefully see you online. Cheers.